everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be sharing with you my top tips for getting a clean and precise cut every time on your Cricut machine. These tips can be applied to any of the machines, so you can use them on the Maker, the Make 3, the Explore family and the Joy. So let's jump straight in to getting clean cuts. So my first favourite way of making sure that I get a clean cut using my Cricut cutting machine is to use a really sticky mat. Now this mat doesn't look particularly clean, but it is one that has been cleaned recently and I have restuck it using my sticky mat adhesive. If you haven't got a new mat, this is a really great way of prolonging the life of your cutting mats and saving a little bit of money. If you haven't seen that video, I will link it up above and down below in the description for you, so you can check that out later on. But you can see this mat is well loved, shall we say, and I always make sure that I keep my clear plastic covers so that I can put them back onto my mats after I've used them, just to make sure that we keep the debris at a minimum. If we didn't do this, then you'd end up with all manner of like dust, and if you've got pet hair and stuff getting stuck to it, even just little bits like this that I've got left over from cuts that are on my desk would get stuck to it. So always use a nice sticky mat. You can see that this one is pretty sticky because I can put my hand on it and it will allow me to lift it up like that. So you can see it's nice and sticky. Tip number 2, and I'm going to use the same mat again here, is to make sure that you use a brayer or a scraper when you are putting your material onto your mat. So I'm just going to pop this piece of black cardstock down on here because I'm actually cutting some pennants for a banner right now, and then I'm going to use my brayer. And if you've been watching me for any length of time, you'll know that I absolutely love my brayer and I use it for everything. Every single project gets attacked with the brayer. If you have not got a brayer, I would suggest buying one. These are fabulous. The Cricut one is about £18, so it is a bit pricey, but it is an absolutely brilliant piece of equipment. If you haven't got a brayer, you can just use your scraper and you can just burnish your material like this down to your mat, and this ensures that your material is stuck really well to your mat, and this will help to give you a nice clean cut. The next thing to remember is to make sure that you choose the correct material settings when you are readying your mat for cutting. So up on the screen now you can see that I'm cutting a project at the moment with some pennants, and I have got my material set to glitter cardstock. I'm going to change my material setting now because I'm going to be using some medium cardstock, and if I were to use the glitter cardstock setting, that would actually give 2 passes over that material, and I would risk cutting the material incorrectly or the blade actually dragging in the material if it isn't giving the correct pressure or the correct amount of cuts that it needs. So I'm going to change my material setting here to medium cardstock, the £80 216 GSM cardstock setting. My cardstock is actually 220 GSM, but this setting will give enough of a cut to go all the way through it and for it to be a lovely clean cut. Sometimes it doesn't matter what you do to try and get a clean cut. Some materials just won't give it to you. So this was cut on a clean mat with a nice clean blade on the correct settings for the materials, and it's still dragging along on this edge and causing that cut to look really scrappy and messy. And again, I was actually cutting 4 pennants on one sheet, and I've had mixed results with this particular cardstock. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And today it just isn't working. These straight lines are just not any good. Now, this leads me on to this cardstock. This is from Hobbycraft's premium range, and I've cut it on the same setting. I've used the same mat, I've used the same machine, the same blade, and my procedure for putting it on the mat and everything is exactly the same. And look at the difference between the quality of the 2 cuts. This one is lovely and crisp. There's not any pulled up bits. There's no dragging around the holes on the pennants, no dragging on the sides compared to this one. So this leads me into saying always try and purchase the best quality material that you can afford. Don't buy the cheapest quality paper from Poundland or B&M or whatever and expect it to cut really well. You're going to find that it does have this sort of problem with it, and this cardstock is actually quite a thick cardstock. I was really pleased to find it, but it just doesn't cut on the machine properly. So what I'm going to have to do with these, if I want to use these pennants, is actually just cut down here with my X-Acto blade or my craft knife and take that off and just shave down this pennant very slightly. I'll still be able to use it, but it's going to be extra work for me. Another tip that I've got for you is if you are using a glitter cardstock, which is more of a laminated card rather than an actual glitter on the top, then a good way of getting it to cut is by putting it face down on your cutting mat. So by laminated, what I mean is that it's actually a layer stuck on top of the cardstock. So you can see there that that glitter is a separate sheet to this, but as you can see with this cut, let me turn my light around a little bit so you can see it a bit better. So as you can see here, when it's cut this way down on the mat, the blade has actually caught that layer of glitter and it's pulled it up, so that cut would be no good. But what I've tried with this particular piece of card is cutting it face down on the mat. So if I get a cutting mat here, and I can just show you what I mean. So I just get my cardstock and I place it on the mat with the glitter side down, and then I just cut that mirrored, so then that will come out perfectly and it'll be an absolutely perfect cut and it doesn't rip up the laminated sheet. My last tip then is to always check your blade for debris. So this is my fine point blade, which I've just taken out my machine to show you, and actually there is some debris stuck on my blade. You won't be able to see it yet until I show you. So if you press this plunger in on the edge, you'll be able to stick that blade out, and you can see on there there's a little bit of cardstock debris. Now that could inhibit the cutting of my fine point blade and stop it cutting as cleanly and as accurately as it actually should be doing. So what you'll need to do is clean off that blade. Now I don't recommend using a foil ball or anything like that because it can damage your blade. But what I would suggest doing is either getting some alcohol on a lint-free cloth or using one of the little wipes that I use when I'm cleaning material ready for vinyl to go onto it. They're just little alcohol swab wipes. You can get them on Amazon or you can get them in the chemist. Actually, they're what they use for injections. Or if you're brave and very careful, just wipe the end of that with your finger and just get that tiny piece of fluffy cardstock off there. Then you can pop your blade back into its housing just by releasing the plunger there, and then you can put it back in your machine and start cutting. I hope that you've all enjoyed this video, and I just want to say thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, I would really love to see you again for another one. So maybe consider subscribing, just hit the button down below. If you've learned something new or you think that you might use some of the tips that I've offered in this video, don't forget to hit the like button. Check out my linked videos down below that I've put for you to watch, and I hope to see you again soon. So all that's left to be said now is have a great week, take care of yourselves, and I will see you really soon.